Welcome back to the Deep Dive, where we take complex operational systems and try to turn them into immediately useful strategic insight.
Exactly.
Today, we are pulling back the curtain on the silent engines of commerce, market intermediaries.
Right.
I mean, this is the whole ecosystem of organizations, the retailers, the wholesalers, the complex logistical systems that silently determines whether products get from the source to your doorstep efficiently. Or
Whether they just pile up in a warehouse somewhere. It's the invisible backbone of the entire economy.
it really is.
And, we often focus on product innovation or brand marketing, but the truth is that competitive advantage today is increasingly won or lost in the channel.
So that's what we're digging into.
Yeah, we are examining how companies from Zappos to Trader Joe's to the giants of global supply chain management, how they achieve marketing excellence in an environment that is just constantly changing.
So what's the mission here?
Well, the mission is to move beyond the traditional, textbook definitions and really understand the specific strategies organizations employ to leverage technology and just an absolute customer focus into tangible competitive advantage.
Okay, let's unpack this with a truly legendary opening case study, one that is all about the culture of service driving logistical success. Zappos.
Zappos, co-founded by the late Tony Sia back in 1999, is just the quintessential example of using channel strategy, in this case, superior customer experience, as the primary differentiator.
And they picked such a tough category to do it in.
Oh, incredibly difficult. They chose the tricky online sale of footwear and accessories as their core product, a category that is notoriously difficult due to fit, size, and style preferences.
And right there, that's the biggest risk. I mean, when you buy shoes online, you almost have to order two sizes or two different styles just to make sure one works.
Yeah.
From an inventory and a shipping perspective, that's a nightmare.
It's a complete nightmare.
Yeah.
Exactly. But they mitigated that risk. And in fact, they turned it into their greatest strength by guaranteeing a superior customer experience.
This is where the free shipping comes in.
Free shipping and free returns, often overnight. For high-volume, relatively low-margin items like shoes, that is a monumental commitment of capital and logistics expertise.
The scale of their ambition was just huge from the get-go. They quickly amassed this enormous selection. We're talking 200,000 shoe styles from 1,200 different makers, all handled with incredibly fast turnaround from their own fulfillment centers.
But the real lesson here isn't just the free shipping. I mean, that's part of it, but it's the human element.
Right.
Precisely. They viewed customer service not as a cost center to be minimized, which is what most companies do. They saw it as a marketing engine.
Which is why they famously refused to outsource their call centers.
Yes. They kept their 24/7 call centers in-house, insisting that the customer interaction was just too vital to the brand experience to hand off to someone else.
And the loyalty that generated is just staggering.
Oh, the data is incredible. It shows that 3/4 of all daily purchases are made by repeat customers. You just don't get those kinds of metrics with a mediocre experience. It's impossible.
That is a staggering metric, yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting and where the culture meets the policy. The sources mention these proof points of employee empowerment, this idea that you trust your frontline employees to deviate from the script if it means retaining a customer for life.
And you have to think about that famous anecdote. A customer called to complain that a pair of boots was leaking after a full year of use.
Which is way, way outside any normal return policy.
Way outside. The official policy stipulated that only unworn shoes were returnable, but the customer service representative didn't even hesitate. They just bypassed the standard policy and sent out a new pair anyway.
Okay, but wait, how do you control that? Doesn't that open the company up to potential abuse and massive costs if every single customer service rep could just rewrite the rules on the fly?
And that's the strategic paradox they solved through culture. That trust in the employee is absolutely foundational. They empower their recs to solve the problem because they understand that the lifetime value of a loyal customer far, far outweighs the cost of one pair of boots.
You're playing the long game.
Completely. And they ensure this attitude pervades the whole organization through internal mechanisms like the annual culture book, where every single employee contributes a passage about what Zappos means to them.
So it becomes a continuous reinforcement loop. You hire the right people, you trust them implicitly, and then you make them feel ownership over the brand story itself.
Absolutely. And they dedicate intense resources to finding those right people. We learned that half of the entire interview process for potential new hires is dedicated to assessing cultural fit.
Half of it.
Half. They're asking, is this person outgoing? Are they open-minded? Are they creative enough to embrace the Zappos service-first approach? It's a perfect example of an intermediary succeeding not through sheer product novelty, but through superior, highly integrated channel excellence that is completely driven by people.
That deep dive into Zappos' operational philosophy leads us perfectly into the foundational concepts of this industry. We really need to clearly define the ecosystem we're talking about here.
Right. So when we talk about retailing, we often think of, a physical store. But the definition is much broader and, frankly, much more relevant today.
What's the formal definition?
Retailing, by definition, includes all activities involved in selling goods or services directly to final consumers for their personal, non-business use.
And the crucial element, which I think our audience will grasp immediately, is that it really doesn't matter how or where those goods are sold.
Precisely. Whether it's in a brick-and-mortar store, by mail order, over the phone, through an increasingly sophisticated vending machine, or on the internet, if the entity is selling to the final consumer, it's engaged in retailing.
So even manufacturers and wholesalers who sell direct fall under this umbrella.
Exactly. This broad definition is why every single company today must have a retail strategy, even if they think they only operate in B2B.
And within that massive evolving field, retailers strategically position themselves based on one fundamental metric, the amount of service they offer.
And this decision dictates everything. Their cost structure, their staffing, their inventory management. The sources detail 4 main levels of service.
Okay, let's walk through them.
Right. So retailers make a conscious choice which positions their entire brand in the market. Starting with the lowest cost model, you have self-service.
This is the bedrock of discount operations, right? Think supermarkets or large warehouse stores like Costco.
Yes. The underlying assumption is a complete transfer of labor to the customer. You, the customer, are willing to take on the labor of the locate, compare, select process entirely on your own in exchange for significant price savings.
And the store design has to reflect that. It demands wide aisles and crystal clear signage because the staff involvement is intentionally minimal.
Then you take a slight step up to self-selection. Here, customers are still actively searching for and comparing items, but there's usually a staff member available for minimal assistance.
So you can ask where the light bulbs are, but they're not going to walk you through the differences between halogen and LED.
Exactly. The shopping process remains largely autonomous, but the retailer acknowledges that the consumer might need a tiny nudge.
Moving up the value chain, we find limited service. These retailers, like many department stores or specialty clothing shops, carry what are often called shopping goods.
And those are items consumers spend more time evaluating based on quality, style, and price. It's a more considered purchase. Because of that complexity, the retailer has to offer more services, things like credit options, merchandise return privileges, and sales staff who can actually provide product information.
So this requires a higher percentage of the staff to be trained and available, which justifies a slightly higher price point.
It has to. And finally, at the pinnacle of the service spectrum, you have full service. This model is entirely relationship-based.
Think high-end jewelry stores or personalized apparel boutiques.
Perfect examples. The salespeople are dedicated to assisting the customer during every single phase of the buying process, from locating the item to making the final selection.
And, as you might expect, this results in the highest cost retailing. It's justified by the extensive services, the potentially slower-moving or higher-margin specialty goods, and the need for highly skilled, well-compensated sales professionals.
And for you listening, understanding these 4 levels is crucial because every single successful retailer is deliberately executing one of these strategies. There's no middle ground.
What's fascinating is how innovative organizations manage to carve out unique market positions by blending elements of these service levels with specific target market insights.
They get creative. Let's look at some examples that really illustrate this strategic positioning in practice.
Where should we start?
A great non-traditional retail example is Panera Bread. They are succeeding because they target what they call food people.
Food people. I like that.
Yeah, it's consumers who appreciate fresh, high-quality, real food and are willing to pay full price for it. They brilliantly blend limited service with a full-service atmosphere.
How so?
Well, they intentionally create an unpretentious, comfortable atmosphere. While there's no traditional table service you order at the counter, Crucially, there's no time limit. Customers are encouraged to linger.
So they're turning a simple quick service operation into a kind of third space, not home, not work.
Exactly. That strategy increases dwell time and perceived value, and it's led to the massive success of the multi-billion-dollar chain.
Now, contrast that strategic experience with the purely cost-focused approach of a company like Lumber Liquidators.
A completely different model. Their entire operational strategy is built around achieving the lowest possible price for hardwood flooring. Nothing else matters as much.
And their cost advantage isn't accidental, it's systematic. They keep operating costs down by cutting out middlemen entirely, buying excess wood directly from lumber mills at deep discounts.
And they locate their stores in inexpensive, often warehouse-like locations far from prime retail areas. It's all about cost discipline.
They also showcase some powerful customer insight. They recognize that consumers are undertaking this major, often stressful renovation project.
They do. And they know, for instance, that shoppers who request product samples have a 30% likelihood of buying within a month. That's a huge signal of intent.
So that focus on the consumer's high-intent stage allows them to minimize marketing waste and maximize conversion. It's really smart.
Then you have the complete opposite approach, the pure online luxury play, Net-a-Porter. Based in London, it's the definitive example of blurring the lines between fashion media and high-speed logistics.
They really function as an authoritative fashion voice, don't they? It's like a magazine you can shop from.
Perfectly put. They combine the glossy aesthetic and editorial depth of a high-end fashion magazine with the slick, user-friendly shopping experience of a chic boutique. They're shipping luxury goods from over 300 international brands like Givenchy and Stella McCartney to 170 countries.
And the average order value is around $250. That's not small.
Not at all. And that's where the channel excellence comes in. They bridge the digital and physical divide by offering same-day delivery in major markets like London and Manhattan.
So they've perfected the logistics needed to deliver delicate, high-value goods instantly. They're not just competing with other websites, they're competing with the immediacy of walking into a physical boutique.
And these examples highlight a key point. While physical stores still dominate, accounting for roughly 97% of goods and services sold, the strategic growth frontier is absolutely in non-store retailing.
And that non-store expansion is divided into, what, 4 major categories?
Right. The first and oldest is direct selling.
So this is often known as multi-level selling or network marketing.
Yes, exactly. This is the multi-billion-dollar industry involving sales conducted outside of a fixed retail location. Think one-to-one sales like Avon or door-to-door sales, or the incredibly successful one-to-many model used in home sales parties, popularized by companies like Tupperware and Mary Kay Cosmetics.
It succeeds by leveraging personal relationships and social networks.
Precisely. Then you have the category that has just dramatically changed the landscape, direct marketing.
This started with mail order catalogs, but now includes sophisticated electronic shopping, telemarketing, and television direct response marketing, like QVC.
And the growth here is just explosive. Even way back in 2009, U.S. online sales were estimated at $210 billion.
And what's interesting is the segmentation of that spending.
Very interesting. Travel was already the single biggest segment, accounting for $80 billion of that total. It signals that the service sector was often faster to adopt purely digital distribution channels than physical goods retailers.
And we can't overlook the sheer convenience and reach of automatic vending.
No, you can't. These machines offer a 24-hour service for impulse goods. And while we might associate them primarily with soft drinks here, the sources note the incredible scale of this in other countries.
Japan is the leader, right?
Japan is the clear leader. They have the highest number of vending machines per person globally, generating $50 billion in annual sales. That's twice the U.S. figures for just Coca-Cola alone in that single market.
Wow.
It just proves that the machine intermediary is highly effective for high-convenience, low-value transactions.
The final category is the buying service. This is a storeless retailer that caters to a specific clientele, often employees of large organizations.
And they allow them to purchase from a list of retailers who have agreed to give discounts. It's a specialized niche, but it's all about leveraging group buying power.
This expansion across all these different channels directly fueled the immense growth and power of corporate structures in retailing. We're talking about the rise of corporate chains and franchises.
Mm-hmm. Corporate retailing organizations, which just means 2 or more outlets owned and controlled by a single entity, achieve major competitive advantages that independent stores simply can't match.
They gain immense economies of scale in purchasing and administration.
Superior bargaining power with manufacturers, wider brand recognition, and the ability to invest in standardized, high-quality training and advanced technology that would be completely unaffordable for a single independent location.
And franchising is an essential component of this concentrated power. It accounts for more than $1 trillion in annual U.S. sales. That's something like 40% of all retail transactions.
It's a massive economic engine, and it's built on standardization.
So franchises are defined by 3 key characteristics.
Right. First, the franchisor licenses a trade or service mark to franchisees in exchange for royalty payments based on sales. That's the core deal.
Second, the franchisee pays a significant sum for the right to be part of the system.
And that upfront investment can be massive. We're talking up to $1.6 million plus ongoing fees for a single McDonald's franchise.
And the third characteristic is the one that guarantees brand consistency globally. The franchisor provides a rigidly standardized system for doing business.
Absolutely. Think of McDonald's requiring franchisees to attend Hamburger University for 2 weeks in Oak Brook, Illinois. That training ensures adherence to exact procedures for everything. Buying materials, preparation, customer service. You are buying into a proven, non-negotiable process.
And both parties benefit hugely from this.
They do. The franchisor gets rapid expansion with less capital expenditure, highly motivated local entrepreneurs who know their local conditions, and even greater purchasing power.
And the franchisee.
Well, the franchisee benefits from a well-known brand name, established support systems, easier access to financing, and crucially, a guaranteed blueprint for success. That significantly lowers the failure rate compared to independent startups. It's just a powerful engine of retail consolidation.
So the retail environment is absolutely not a set-it-and-forget-it system. Since 2008, and I mean continually since then, the pressure has been relentless. It's forcing retailers to fundamentally reassess their operational DNA.
That's right. You know, during economic downturns, some companies respond defensively, they slash staff, they run deep, value-destroying discounts. But the smarter retailers focused on operational efficiency.
JCPenney's a good example.
A great one. They deliberately held back 60% of their inventory for the critical holiday season. Now, that sounds counterintuitive.
It does. You'd think you'd want more inventory.
Right, but they did it to prevent stockouts of key items and to avoid overflowing shelves of unwanted goods. They were managing scarcity rather than simply reacting to demand. It's a more disciplined approach.
These short-term adjustments aside, there are these fundamental long-term structural trends that are reshaping competition. We need to start with the concept of intensified intertype competition.
This is a huge one. It means the old rules of competition just no longer apply. A department store, historically, worried only about the department store across the street.
But not anymore.
Not at all. Now, discount chains like Walmart and Tesco are aggressively expanding their offerings into clothing, health and beauty, and high-margin electrical appliances. Essentially, different store formats are fighting fiercely for the same consumer dollars by carrying merchandise that increasingly overlaps.
And this intertype pressure is the primary factor driving the dramatic decline of middle-market retailers. This is what industry analysts call the hourglass market.
Yes, the market is becoming heavily polarized. Growth is extremely strong at the high end. We're talking luxury retailers like Nordstrom and Neiman Marcus who offer superior service and experience.
And growth is equally strong at the bottom discount giants, like Target and Walmart, who offer unbeatable value and convenience.
Exactly. And the middle ground, stores like Sears, CompUSA, many traditional department stores, that's where the bloodbath is occurring.
So when a discount retailer, like Target, improves their quality and image by carrying designer collaborations, consumers who once shopped in the middle are now willing to trade down.
Right. They perceive sufficient quality at a lower price point, and that creates a gap in the center of the market that very few can survive.
Kohl's is one of the interesting success stories in navigating this squeezed middle.
They are. They managed to attract those value-conscious consumers by successfully introducing trendy, exclusive names like Vera Wang and Lauren Conrad. But they paired that with a real operational focus.
Like improving store convenience.
Yes, by utilizing a signature racetrack floor plan, which is designed to move customers smoothly past merchandise and maximize sightlines. It's a subtle but powerful design choice.
And speaking of those bottom-tier giants, the growth of giant retailers is the third massive trend we have to talk about. These companies are just powerhouses.
They absolutely are. They use their superior logistics, advanced information systems, and massive buying power to dictate terms to almost everyone else in the supply chain.
We're talking about category killers like Petco, which dominates a single product line, and supercenters like Walmart.
And their dominance is so complete that they often dictate the terms, the pricing, the delivery schedules, the packaging requirements to even the most powerful manufacturers.
And if a manufacturer refuses to cooperate,
They risk losing 10 to 30% of the entire market overnight. That is the kind of leverage these intermediaries wield.
that competitive pressure immediately spills over into the competition between store-based and non-store-based retailing. E-commerce, obviously, is taking significant market share, forcing physical stores to fight back creatively.
And they're fighting back by realizing they can't compete on price or sheer convenience alone. They have to become true destinations that offer rich, captivating, multisensory experiences. This is where sensory marketing becomes paramount,
So this involves sophisticated lighting, carefully chosen music, tempo, and style.
which have been proven to influence the time and money people spend.
And crucially, the use of specific scents. The sources mentioned the careful engineering behind this. Sony-style stores using a vanilla and mandarin orange fragrance.
Or Bloomingdale's customizing different scents per department, lilacs and lingerie, cinnamon during the holidays. They are appealing to all five senses to justify the physical trip and encourage people to linger.
That need for an immersive experience is coupled with the growing investment in technology. Technology is no longer just for the back office. It's shaping the consumer experience itself.
Absolutely. Almost every major retailer uses advanced technology for forecasting and inventory control. But we're seeing new consumer-facing tech everywhere. Plasma screens running targeted programming.
Electronic shelf labeling that allows for instantaneous price changes across the entire store.
Or even smart shopping carts that help customers locate sales items and even pay without waiting in line.
And on the logistics side, the ultimate game changer is the use of RFID smart tags embedded in products.
Companies like Coca-Cola and Gillette are using these to achieve real-time tracking of goods from the moment they leave the factory floor to the moment they're placed in the shopping basket. This allows for just unprecedented efficiency and loss prevention.
The ultimate goal of all this technology and the experience engineering and the competition analysis is to influence the decision point, which brings us to the growth of shopper marketing.
And this is critical because research consistently shows that 70 to 80% of purchase decisions are made at the point of purchase on the physical store shelf.
So all the advertising in the world doesn't matter as much as that final moment.
Exactly. Therefore, how and where a product is displayed and how the consumer interacts with it is critical. We even have incredibly sophisticated research methods now, like goggle-like devices that record what test customers actually look at while walking down an aisle.
And that research revealed a surprising insight.
A very surprising one. Many shoppers ignore products placed exactly at eye level. The optimal location for maximum visibility and sales is often between waist and chest level.
With this constantly shifting environment as the backdrop, retailers still need to nail the fundamental marketing decisions, starting with defining the target market.
Absolutely. The retailer just cannot make consistent decisions about product assortment, store decor, advertising, or price until they have clearly defined and profiled who they are trying to reach.
Whole Foods Market is a great example of strategic clarity here.
A perfect one. Whole Foods targets the consumer interested in organic and natural foods, but they brilliantly position their offering not as a necessity, but as an affordable luxury.
And the store experience is engineered to reinforce this.
Completely. Bright, well-staffed markets with artistic, bountiful displays that just celebrate food.
And their product strategy is perfectly aligned with this target.
It is. They offer about 2,400 items, and importantly, 11% of that is their private label product, which is segmented into the premium Whole Foods Market lines and the low-priced 365 everyday value line.
So that segmentation allows them to appeal to both the affluent shopper looking for the best artisanal item and the price-conscious shopper who just wants organic basics.
Exactly. And this focus resulted in sales growth of an incredible 28% compounded annual rate from 1991 to 2009. Just stunning growth.
But the danger, as always, is losing sight of that core target. The mass market jeweler sales provided a disastrous example when they attempted to chase upscale customers.
A complete disaster. They decided to drop their inexpensive jewelry lines for high-margin, fashionable 14-karat pieces, mistakenly believing they could just move up market.
And it failed miserably.
It did, because they alienated and lost their traditional mass-market customer base without successfully capturing the upscale clientele who shop at a place like Tiffany's. It shows that repositioning requires a massive shift in every aspect of the marketing mix, not just the product.
So to hit finer market segments without risking the core brand, retailers often employ new lines of stores. That's a clever strategy.
A very clever one. Limited brands, for example, successfully launched Torrid, a line specifically tailored for plus-sized teen girls. Jimbori created Janie and Jack for high-end baby and toddler clothing.
This allows for hyper-targeted product assortment and store atmosphere without diluting the primary brand identity.
Once the target is set, the retailer has to select the channels to employ. And for any major retailer today, this increasingly means operating multiple channels that are tightly integrated, not working in isolation.
Staples is a perfect example of this. They sell through their physical stores, a direct response internet site, and affiliate links.
And JCPenney made a massive strategic investment to ensure their internet, store, and catalog businesses were fully intertwined. Online shoppers could pick up and return orders at physical stores, and the store staff could access online inventory right there at the checkout registers.
And catalogs, which some experts prematurely predicted would die in the internet age, have actually grown in importance.
They have. They often serve as crucial branding devices. Victoria's Secret's integrated multi-channel approach stores, catalog, and web is a model for this. Their catalog and online orders account for nearly 28% of overall revenue, growing at double the rate of store sales.
It just demonstrates the power of synergy when channels aren't competing with each other, but reinforcing the overall brand experience.
That's the key. Now, moving to product assortment, the breadth and depth have to perfectly match the target market's shopping expectations. This is exceptionally tricky in fast-moving industries like apparel.
We saw Urban Outfitters struggle with this. They embraced new styles too quickly, moving past their core, hip but not too hip formula, and it led to a 25% drop in sales.
They just alienated their loyal, trend-following customer base.
Conversely, Aeropostale found massive success by obsessively matching its assortment to its young target market, 11 to 18-year-olds. They understood that this group highly values social conformity.
So while competitors might reduce stock of, say, cargo pants based on general market trends, Aeropostale keeps an ample supply at affordable prices because their specific demographic still wants them.
How do they stay so focused?
They achieve this hyper-focus by running high school focus groups and conducting 20 internet-based tests per year. They get impressive sales figures just by staying laser-focused on their niche.
And product differentiation is vital here. Retailers can feature exclusive national brands or focus mostly on private label merchandise like Benetton.
Or offer ever-changing or surprise merchandise like TJ Maxx, which drives frequent store visits. Or they can offer hyper-targeted assortments like Lane Bryant for larger women.
This leads us to procurement. Once the assortment is set, retailers have to efficiently manage their merchandise sources. Today, the availability of real-time scanner data and advanced computer tracking systems has vastly improved demand forecasting and stock control.
It minimizes the risk of overstocking or stockouts.
But this is where we have to introduce a crucial and kind of counterintuitive concept: direct product profitability, or DPP. This is essential for our audience to grasp, as it really challenges the traditional reliance on gross margin.
Right. DPP is a game changer. It measures the true handling costs of a product from the moment it arrives at the warehouse until the customer buys it.
So this includes things like receiving, moving to storage, specialized refrigeration, the labor for shelf stocking,
Spoilage risk, paperwork processing, the whole 9 yards. And this analysis often reveals a staggering truth. The gross margin on a product may have little to no relation to its actual profitability.
So a high-volume item might seem profitable on paper.
But if it requires massive, specialized handling, like a refrigerated item that must be rotated daily, resulting in high labor costs, it may actually be less profitable than a low-volume, stable item.
So a box of crackers might be more profitable than a gallon of milk, even if the milk has a higher margin.
Potentially, yes. The sources reveal that retailers often find a third of their floor space is tied up in products that don't make an economic profit above the cost of capital, largely due to these high DPP costs.
And Trader Joe's has built its entire operational model around an innovative procurement strategy that implicitly solves the DPP problem by just eliminating complexity.
They have. They operate as the specialized hybrid gourmet food outlet discount warehouse.
They embrace a less is more philosophy. A conventional supermarket carries around 55,000 products. Trader Joe's carries only about 3,000.
And that dramatically reduces star-keeping units, which minimizes handling complexity and warehousing costs. It's brilliant.
And here's the core differentiator. 80% of what they stock sells under their own private labels.
Yes. They bypass intermediaries, buying directly from hundreds of suppliers, 20% to 25% of whom are overseas. This cuts out multiple markups and allows them complete control over quality and cost. Products only make it onto the shelf if they're approved by a rigorous tasting panel.
It's an exceptionally successful model, and it's difficult to copy precisely because it optimizes DPP.
The final piece of this strategic puzzle is pricing strategy. Pricing is the single most important positioning factor after the target market itself.
And retailers generally fall into one of two camps here.
Right. High markup, lower volume, which is typical of fine specialty stores, or low markup, higher volume, which is the characteristic of mass merchandisers.
Target is the definitive modern example of positioning for value with its cheap chic strategy.
In the mid-1980s, Target sought to differentiate itself by enhancing the design quality of its selection, bringing in world-renowned designers like Michael Graves and Isaac Mizrahi while maintaining discount prices.
Their strategy was totally holistic. They changed the merchandising layout to reinforce the image-low shelves, bright halogen lighting, wide aisles, to make it feel more upscale.
And crucially, they adopted the European concept of fast fashion in 2006 to keep products fresh and increase shopper frequency, forcing consumers to visit more often just to see what was new.
This high-low pricing versus everyday low pricing, EDLP, is a massive strategic choice.
A huge one. Companies like Walmart have championed EDLP for greater pricing stability. It gives them significantly lower advertising costs because they don't need constant sales promotions.
And it builds a stronger image of fairness and reliability compared to retailers who rely on constantly shifting sales pricing.
And finally, let's just quickly revisit the in-store experience. Atmosphere and activities. The sensory elements we discussed, scent, music, tempo, are critical, but so is the physical layout.
The famous Helping Stores to Sell memo provides these specific, detailed insights into consumer behavior that retailers have to address. For instance, upon entering a store, shoppers need to navigate a transition zone.
Right. They're moving too fast, they're adjusting to the environment, they're dealing with external distractions, they don't actually register and respond to displays placed immediately inside the entrance.
And gender plays a massive, measurable role in layout design. The research notes that a shopper, particularly a woman, is far less likely to buy an item if she's even lightly brushed by another customer.
Which emphasizes the critical and often costly need for wide aisles and comfortable spacing.
Conversely, men tend to move faster, they're reluctant to ask questions of staff, and will often leave the store entirely if they can't immediately find the specific section they're looking for.
So retailers have to manage traffic flow and signage based on these fundamental behavioral differences.
Strategic placement of popular products is also essential. Putting quick grab items like ink cartridges up front at Staples rewards busy shoppers and encourages the more leisurely ones to look more deeply into the store's offerings.
But the ultimate response to e-commerce, the strategic move that justifies the physical footprint, is the experiential retail model. You make the store a genuine destination, a place where the transaction is secondary to the experience.
The classic example is Bass Pro Shops. They don't just sell fishing gear.
No, they create an immersive environment featuring giant aquariums, waterfalls, shooting ranges, and classes in everything from ice fishing to conservation.
This turns the store into a day out. It often makes it the #1 tourist destination in its state, which drives foot traffic and then subsequent sales.
And REI, the outdoor gear seller, allows customers to fully test climbing equipment on 65-foot walls or try out expensive Gore-Tex raincoats under simulated rain showers.
It turns a high-risk, high-value purchase into an enjoyable, low-risk, tactile experience. That's something e-commerce just cannot replicate. So we've established that the competition is intense among retailers, but the most aggressive strategic confrontation right now is the rise of the private label, or the store brand, which has fundamentally changed the power dynamics between manufacturers and retailers.
This is no longer about generics being relegated to the bottom shelf. That's an old way of thinking. Store brands are now high-margin, sophisticated quality products that directly compete with, and in many cases surpass, national brands.
And the numbers are huge. In European and Canadian grocery stores, they account for as much as 40% of all items.
And in the U.S., the penetration is powerful. 1 in 4 items sold across supermarkets, drug chains, and mass merchandisers is a store brand.
The sources identify the top categories by sales. And it's not just canned goods. Milk is #1 at $8.1 billion, followed by bread and baked goods at $4.2 billion and cheese at $3.5 billion.
These are staples. That indicates deep consumer trust.
And it's important to clearly distinguish these sophisticated private labels from generics.
Right. Generics are unbranded, plainly packaged versions of common products. They offer standard or often lower quality, and they're priced aggressively 20% to 40% below national brands and 10% to 20% below private labels. They compete purely on lowest price.
We see this generic strategy play out dramatically in the pharmaceutical market, which is now dominated by generic drugs.
For the first time, branded drug sales actually declined in 2009. That marked a major industry inflection point. The scale is just massive.
Israel's Teva became the world's biggest generic drug maker with $14 billion in revenue.
And interestingly, the pharma giants like Novartis are now entering the generic market themselves. They recognize the opportunity, particularly in emerging markets where consumers can't afford expensive brand names, but are desperately seeking trusted alternatives over potentially counterfeit or low-quality local drugs.
So why are retailers so heavily focused on private labels beyond just the control they offer? Simply put, they win on the bottom line.
They absolutely win. Private labels are inherently more profitable. Retailers reduce costs across the board. They often source production from manufacturers who have excess capacity, which drives down the unit cost.
And since they don't need to spend on national advertising, distribution is streamlined.
And crucially, they eliminate the manufacturer's R&D costs. This all results in significantly higher profit margins for the retailer.
They also provide differentiation and, most importantly, increased bargaining power.
Huge bargaining power. Since shelf space is the ultimate scarce resource in a store, many supermarkets charge manufacturers a steep slotting fee, an upfront payment just for accepting a new national brand.
And retailers, naturally, grant more prominent display space to their own private brands and ensure they are well stocked. They put the squeeze on the manufacturers.
Loblaws, the massive Canadian retailer, is a masterclass in a finely tuned private label strategy. They understood early that store brands could meet or even exceed national brand quality.
Since 1984, their premium President's Choice line, famous for specific products like the decadent chocolate chip cookie, has cultivated this loyal following.
But they don't stop there. They also have their no-frills, yellow-labeled, no-name line for value shoppers. This two-tiered approach allows them to capture both ends of the price spectrum within their own ecosystem.
And they're so successful they even license the President's Choice line to non-competitive retailers globally.
Right. And the success of private labels is also partly attributable to the manufacturers themselves. Consumers have become far more price-sensitive due to the constant barrage of coupons and promotions, which basically trains them to wait for a discount.
And many manufacturers have diluted their own brand identity with too many brand and line extensions. It makes it harder for consumers to maintain a clear preference for the national label.
It creates confusion.
So let's pivot. If you are a national brand manufacturer like a Kraft or a P&G, and your biggest customer, the retailer, is also your fiercest competitor, how do you fight back?
It's a tough position to be in. The sources outline 4 core strategic recommendations for manufacturers who are being squeezed by this private label dominance. First, they must fight selectively.
This means manufacturers can no longer afford to defend every single product line.
No way. They have to focus their investment only where the brand is dominant or occupies a premium niche or adds genuine, measurable value for consumers. We saw P&G, for example, strategically rationalize its portfolio. They sold off brands like Jif peanut butter to concentrate resources on strengthening their core billion-dollar-plus brands.
Second, manufacturers must learn to partner effectively.
This means seeking genuinely collaborative, win-win relationships with retailers, often by developing brands that complement the retailer's private labels rather than directly competing with them across the board.
A great example of this is Estée Lauder, which created 4 exclusive brands specifically for Kohl's.
Right, and this helped Kohl's generate volume and prestige in the beauty segment, while simultaneously protecting Estée Lauder's more prestigious high-end brands sold in department stores from dilution. It was a win-win.
Third, they have to innovate brilliantly.
Continuous innovation keeps manufacturer brands fresh. It gives consumers a tangible reason to choose them over the store brand. But the innovation has to be radical and easily defensible.
So this means launching new patented products and diligently protecting intellectual property.
Exactly. The sources note that Kraft, recognizing the erosion of its competitive edge, actually doubled its number of patent lawyers to ensure its innovations were legally protected against immediate replication, whether by private label manufacturers or other competitors.
And
finally, manufacturers need to create winning value propositions. This means they have to imbue their brands with powerful symbolic imagery and strong emotional connection, alongside superior functional quality. Manufacturer brands just cannot afford to let private labels equal or better them on functional quality, and they must ensure that the perceived intangible benefits, the status, the trust, the lifestyle, justify any price premium.
we spent considerable time on retailing, the final step to the consumer. Now we have to move one step back up the supply chain to wholesaling, the sale of goods or services for resale or for business use. This is the crucial, often unseen layer of the intermediary system.
Wholesalers, often called distributors, are really misunderstood. They are essential because they're incredibly efficient at performing functions that manufacturers would find cost prohibitive to execute themselves, especially when they're dealing with smaller customers.
So there are 9 primary functions that fundamentally justify the existence and the necessity of a good wholesaler.
That's right. Let's walk through the most critical ones. The first 2 are selling and promoting and buying and assortment building.
A wholesaler's sales force can reach many small customers at a much lower cost than the manufacturer attempting to do so directly.
Right. And they are experts at selecting and building the assortments, the mix of goods that their specific customer base needs. That saves retailers a massive amount of effort and time.
Next, they perform the vital task of bulk breaking.
Manufacturers produce in massive quantities, carload or truckload lots. Wholesalers efficiently buy those large quantities and then they break them down into smaller units that their customers can manage. That saves retailers considerable work and inventory costs.
They also provide warehousing.
They do, holding inventory and reducing risk for both suppliers and customers by centralizing stock. They also offer quicker transportation because they are typically geographically closer to the buyers than the original manufacturer is.
And the remaining functions are often financial and advisory. They offer financing by granting credit to customers and paying suppliers quickly.
It smooths out the cash flow cycle for everyone. They also bear risk by taking title to the goods and accepting responsibility for theft, damage, or obsolescence.
Finally, they supply critical market information, acting as the eyes and ears of the industry for both suppliers and customers.
And they offer management services and counseling, helping retailers improve their operations by training clerks or setting up accounting systems.
Despite their efficiency, though, wholesalers face tremendous pressure. They're squeezed by large contract manufacturers who want to sell direct, and by demanding customers who want lower prices.
And manufacturers often complain wholesalers don't aggressively promote their products or that they don't carry enough inventory.
So how have the savvy wholesalers adapted?
They've adapted by fundamentally changing their value proposition. They're increasing asset productivity and heavily investing in advanced technology to offer new services. Look at Arrow Electronics, a massive global provider of electronic components.
Arrow faced extinction when large contract manufacturers began buying components direct from the source.
They did. But Arrow responded by transforming into a strategic service partner. They focused heavily on providing financing, on-site inventory management, parts tracking software, and complex services like chip programming for their clients.
This pivot to value-added services was a necessity. It transformed them from a middleman who just shipped boxes to an indispensable extension of the manufacturer's own operations.
Exactly. And that strategic shift helped quadruple their share price in 5 years, and they achieved nearly $15 billion in sales.
Another classic enduring example is W.W. Grainger, a successful industrial distributor with billions in sales. They are the ultimate source for facilities maintenance products.
Grainger succeeds through scale and guaranteed availability. They serve 1.8 million businesses through this massive network of over 600 branches and 18 distribution centers. They offer over 900,000 products, all linked by a satellite network to guarantee product availability and reduce response time.
So they are selling consistency and guaranteed uptime, which is absolutely essential for industrial buyers.
It's their core value prop. This intense focus on efficiency and speed takes us to the biggest strategic concept in channel management, market logistics and its relationship to supply chain management, or SCM.
So SCM is the overarching philosophy.
It is. It starts even before the product is made, strategically procuring the right inputs and converting them efficiently. Market logistics is the broader concept within SCM that deals specifically with physical distribution, planning, implementing, and controlling the flow of materials, finished goods, and related information from the point of origin to the point of consumption.
And logistics costs are the ultimate target for optimization. They can account for a staggering 30% to 40% of the final product cost.
Which is why many experts call market logistics the last frontier for cost economies. If you can shave just a few percentage points off that, the impact on profitability is enormous.
So to manage this, firms need to employ integrated logistics systems, or ILS.
And this is where the crucial, complex insight lies. The goal is not maximizing service delivery at any cost, nor is it minimizing individual functional costs like transportation or warehousing in isolation.
The goal instead is minimizing the total system cost. This is represented by the formula. Minimizing the combined cost of freight plus fixed warehousing, plus Y dollars, plus variable warehousing inventory, plus the cost of lost sales due to delivery delay.
It's an incredibly difficult optimization problem because these functional costs often have negative interactions.
Give us an example.
Okay, if a manager chooses a cheaper, slower rail shipment, so the cost of freight, $2 goes down.
That seems like a win.
It seems like it. But they have to recognize that this raises working capital costs because inventory is sitting in transit for longer, and it might drastically increase the cost of lost sales because customers buy from competitors due to the delay.
So you save $1 on shipping but lose $10 in sales.
Precisely. You have to look at the total system.
That concept of minimizing waste across the entire system brings us to lean manufacturing, a philosophy pioneered by companies like Toyota, which produces goods with minimal waste of time, materials, or money.
ConAmed, a medical device manufacturer, is a prime example of applying this lean philosophy to logistics. Rather than relying on overseas manufacturing and holding massive inventory buffers, they streamlined their production.
Ow.
They started assembling disposable medical devices only after hospitals placed their orders.
So it's a pull system, not a push system.
A pure pull system. By linking their operations so closely to the ultimate buyer, they dramatically avoided inventory buildup, they increased their output per worker by 21%, and they significantly reduced the physical footprint and the capital tied up in parts inventory. It is a logistics strategy driven by information, not by stock accumulation.
So let's dive into the 4 major logistics decisions companies have to execute to achieve this total system cost minimization. Let's start with order processing.
This is all about shortening the order-to-payment cycle. The entire chain from order transmission to customer credit checks to inventory allocation and eventual payment receipt, all of it must be compressed.
Because the longer this cycle takes, the lower the customer satisfaction and the lower the company profits.
Exactly. And technology, through systems like EDI, electronic data interchange, and EFT, electronic funds transfer, has been instrumental in shrinking this vital time component.
Next is warehousing.
Here, companies must make the critical trade-off between speed and cost. More stocking locations mean faster delivery to local markets, but this results in exponentially higher warehousing and total inventory costs.
So to reduce this cost, companies often centralize their inventory and rely on faster but more expensive transportation.
They do. And modern distribution warehouses are highly automated, using sophisticated IT and robotics. Furthermore, a key modern trend is postponing finalization of goods to the warehouse.
What does that mean?
It means activities like final assembly, labeling, or packaging are done at the last possible moment in the warehouse to better match the final offering to real-time customer demand. This achieves dramatic savings on holding finished inventory.
The third decision is inventory. This involves determining the optimal order quantity, or in others' dollars.
And this is a complex balancing act where managers have to weigh the high costs of inventory carrying, which can run up to 30% of the inventory value due to obsolescence, interest, and insurance, against the order processing costs, which is the fixed administrative cost of placing an order.
So the goal is to order just enough to meet demand without carrying excessive stock.
That's the dream. The ultimate solution to high inventory costs is the build for order, not stock philosophy. Sony made this idea famous with their SOMO model, sell one, make one. And Dell proved this could revolutionize the computer industry.
A fascinating, flexible example of this inventory strategy is Cameron Hughes, the wine negociant.
A great one. He doesn't grow grapes or own bottling machines. He acts as a savvy buyer, sourcing excess wine lots from high-end wineries that need to discreetly offload supply without diluting their own brand name.
So he takes variable supply, which would be an inventory nightmare for a typical retailer, and turns it into a market advantage by creating these limited edition premium blends.
And he eliminates intermediary markups by selling directly to powerful retailers like Costco. Because the lots are limited and highly specific, it creates urgency, driving massive, fast turnover.
Finally, we have transportation. This decision affects everything: pricing, on-time delivery, and the condition of goods upon arrival. It's a core component of the dollars in our total system cost formula.
It is. Companies have to choose the best mode: rail, air, truck, water, or pipeline, based on criteria like speed, dependability, capacity, and cost. For example, air freight is fast and dependable but very expensive. Trucking is flexible and fast but has higher capacity than rail.
And increasingly, shippers use containerization.
Yes, putting goods in uniform boxes that are easy to transfer between modes. We see the rise of combined mode transport like piggyback, rail and truck, or fishyback, water and truck, which is cheaper than trucking alone, but offers the necessary flexibility for door-to-door delivery.
The overarching lesson here seems to be that market logistics strategies must be derived directly from the core business strategy.
They must. If your strategy is high-end, fast fashion, your logistics have to prioritize speed and flexibility over minimum cost. The entire system has to be information-intensive, and companies must set service goals that match or exceed competitors' standards.
And we see that power dynamic play out again with large customers demanding high logistical support.
They do. More frequent deliveries, shorter order cycle times, mixed pallets. Smart manufacturers recognize that they can't offer this elite service for free to everyone. They have to set up differentiated distribution programs, offering different service levels and corresponding charges to each major customer to manage costs effectively and maximize the profit on that essential logistical expertise.
So this deep dive has shown that marketing excellence in the channel is about far more than just selling a product. It's about strategic positioning and retailing, aggressively competing with high-quality private labels, and achieving operational superiority through complex integrated logistics systems. The entire value chain has to function as a single unit.
The central, unavoidable takeaway is the absolute importance of integrated logistics systems and supply chain management. When a company controls and optimizes the flow of information and physical goods across the entire process, they gain radical speed and efficiency that competitors relying on traditional supply chains simply cannot match. It becomes the ultimate source of competitive differentiation.
And the single best, most disruptive example of that hyper-integrated concept is Zara. They didn't just sell clothes, they revolutionized the entire fashion industry by controlling design, production, and distribution from end to end. They turned the channel itself into a weapon.
Their speed is legendary. It fundamentally changes the market tempo. A standard 2-week turnaround from a new design concept to being stocked in stores versus the industry average of 6 to 9 months.
How do they maintain that speed?
They maintain this speed and agility by locating half of their production facilities nearby in Spain and Portugal, which allows for rapid adjustments.
And the results translate into these incredible marketing metrics that are built on scarcity and urgency.
Completely. They intentionally produce small quantities of each collection, which drives customers to visit their stores an average of 17 times a year, compared to the industry average of just 3.
And because of this artificial scarcity and speed, they sell a stunning 85% of their merchandise at full price.
Zara's success is a testament to controlling the total system cost. Prioritizing speed, the $2 minimization over cheap labor and remote production. It leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Zara achieved this revolutionary speed and profitability in fashion by tightly controlling its physical supply chain design, manufacturing, and distribution, which other industries beyond physical products could replicate this? Think fast-moving digital content, customized services, or even complex healthcare administration. Which of those could replicate this hyper-integrated, high-speed model for maximum ongoing success? Where's the next Zara waiting to be built?